Good morning, garden friends. We are actually at another one of my friends' home that we are going to take a walk through her small garden. You know, as I stated, it is always nice to be able to see individuals' different gardens and how they have them set up. So come along with me while we walk through Jayne's garden. Today we are visiting with another Georgia resident that has an exquisite garden that we're going to do a walkthrough. But before we do, want to get a little information and history from Jayne in regards to what inspired her, motivated her to start gardening. What are some of your favorite plants? What are some that you don't like? You know, because we all have that one plant that, you know, we don't want to have in our garden. So, if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about how you got started in gardening.
Okay, well, I am so happy to be talking to Deborah about gardening because it is a passion. Yeah, professionally, I did a lot of mind work, retired psychotherapist. And what we know is that you have to have work-life balance. And one of the things that I early on in my career understood that I needed to do some things that were creative. And I could not paint, I couldn't draw, I couldn't, do a bunch of things that are creative, but I could garden. And so I also inherited the love and the passion for it from my mom. I'm a native Atlantan, and my mother always gardened. I mean, we had lots, she had azaleas, she had every type of plant there was. She was always in the garden and also decorating other people's homes with plants and planting in their yards if they allowed her to. So it's just something that I've always had a passion for. It helped me to develop patience. Because with gardening, you have to have a lot of patience, and you also have to recognize that it is not a perfect science, so to speak. You know, you may plant something and then it dies, and you say, oh, well, that didn't work. Right. And you have to figure it out, but you also have to be willing to let go when something happens. So it fed me, and it continues to feed me, in terms of feeding my soul as far as loving plants and watching them grow and sharing with others who also love plants. Plant people are very special. They're very special, and they're very kind, loving, and generous. So it's a great feeling to actually be a amateur gardener, and I consider myself an amateur gardener. So.
All right, you won't think that when you see her yard.
Well,
I did a quick walkthrough, okay? So don't let her fool you.
No, definitely.
And you know what? You're right. When you end up meeting other gardeners, it is about learning from each other, whether it's through plant swaps, whether it's through, groups that, end up networking with. I am a firm believer that you can learn something from someone when it comes to gardening, because even for ourselves, you have been a native Atlanta. We moved down here, it'll be 7 years in October. I had to struggle with this Georgia clay.
Oh, yes. Oh my goodness.
Because moving from up north, you had that rich, dark brown soil.
The Garden State, New Jersey. The people don't know that, but that beautiful soil.
Yes.
You're right.
And to come down here and not know anything about the Georgia clay. Now, like I said, with you being a native of Atlanta, what type of tips can you offer in regards to like somebody that, like me, it was trial and error to learn for amending the soil. What are
That's
some
right.
of the things?
Amen, not amen, amen, amen. But you have to amend the thick Georgia clay. Now, and you also have to research, the plants that do well. And of course, zone-wise, like there are zones in terms of, even here in Georgia, I think we may have at least 2 or 3 zones. We are considered central or closer to North Georgia. But I mean, you have to research and see what plants actually do well. And the Georgia clay really has to be amended seriously based on whatever you put in it. It doesn't make a difference. There's nothing that's going to grow through how thick and compacted it is and becomes. So, you know, I mean, putting in peat, putting in any kind of soil conditioner, you know, whenever you're planting, before you pick a plant, you better just amend the soil.
Right.
And that's what I tell all my friends who were starting out, and that is, it's like, you can't start with what you actually think is pretty and love. You have to start first with what is the soil. Understand your soil.
Right.
You know, and fortunately, you know, here in this area, we have the Georgia Extension office, and you can take a sample of your soil, take it to them, and they'll tell you what's wrong with it, what's right with it. And, you know, so people are very friendly.
Right.
Just like you're saying, plant people are very friendly and they're willing to share, and you just keep learning.
Yeah.
You just keep learning. And thank God for social media now. I must be on 10 social media groups about different plants that people love to give advice. People love to tell you, upload a photo and see your plant like withering or whatever, and they'll be willing to give you any kind of advice.
Yeah.
So it's it's a great thing. It's a great hobby, and it like I say, it's great food for the soul.
Yeah. And so and I know you said in this home you've been here 25 years now, and looking at it, it looks like you have parked, shade, and the sun. Now, how long does the sun stay over there? Do you know?
It's a very good question. And we have been here for 25 years, and our yard has gone through a number of transitions. I mean, initially I thought I was going to plant every inch of my backyard, so I took out almost all the grass and realized, that was not the best idea, because I couldn't actually get all of that done because I was still working and whatever. So I guess maybe about 4 years ago, we changed the backyard. But and I planted the trees. I mean, I planted the trees actually from one of the discount stores. I just went up to Big Lots and picked up the trees. They used to have them $5, and so I got a couple of maples. I got some very invasive trees, and I had to take those out. But this tree, the biggest tree I have, is a silver maple. And it has grown from a stick into a huge tree now. And what we learned is that, you know, your light changes. And when you are with a partner, you also have to consult with them. So my husband actually took down some of my limbs from my hosta shade garden. He didn't take them down, but he had them taken down, and I wasn't paying attention. But, so I have a little more sun than I originally started with when I put in a hosta garden. When you were asking, I guess I get, for my back garden, I think it is a western. It's facing the west, I believe. And the front yard is facing the east. So I get morning sun, you know, in my front yard, and then I get the heat from the backyard. But I have some shade, I have some trees, and that's helpful to shade some of the plants. But you know, sun is great if you got sun plants. If you want something to flower and be beautiful, you're gonna need some sun.
Right.
You know, or whatever. Oh, I mean, I think I have a combination of both. On my sides, I have a northern side and a southern side, and I don't do much on the sides of my yard. But they don't get as much attention. I have to have somewhere that I can continue to plant.
I know it is so funny because my daughter will say to me, "Mom, where are you putting that?" You know, I got a spot. Don't worry about it. It'll be perfect. You know,
yes.
and I know when we were talking earlier, you had mentioned about having some heirloom plants.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
and definitely want you to speak to those and also show us
Well,
those?
heirloom plants are, like I'm big in terms of family, and of course, I was saying my mom and my grandmom both were gardeners, and so from our home property, when I moved here 25 years ago, my mom was still alive, and so he gave me peonies or peonies, according to what your orientation is. We say peonies. And so she gave me some of her peonies from her yard, and then I have some a snowball tree. So she actually it didn't come from her house, but she basically said you must have a snowball tree in your yard. And for years it never flowered because I had too much shade. But finally it took off. So basically, I guess I have more peonies that are heirloom. But if your parents or if your relatives or wherever are anywhere, I mean, if you go to their garden and if they will share with you, it is such a nice thing to pass down.
Right.
My daughter lives very close to me, and she also has some of her grandmother's peonies.
Nice.
So that's the plant that we do heirloom.
Okay.
But heirloom plants, that's what I continue to pass down to my daughter. She comes over and digs out my plants that only a daughter could do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just so many entities to gardening that's so touching and so sweet.
Right.
So the heirloom plants are really like that.
Well, you know what? I'm so glad that we were able to, take a moment, get a little history about your gardening and, your exposure to it. So, what I'd like to do is for us to go ahead and take a walk through your lovely garden.
That's great.
And you tell us a little bit about what you have.
I will definitely do that.
Okay.
I mean, and please know that I did not know. I knew that Deborah was going to film, but I was not prepared for a formal walkthrough or whatever. But gardening is like that. My gardening style will not be like other people's gardening style. My gardening style is much more eclectic, and I just put something somewhere.
Yeah.
So, and my husband is according to how he's feeling that day, whether he's willing to help to do the work, because I can't take all the credit. He is the guy who does a lot of the heavy lifting.
Yeah, and you wanted something, and I think that's the part that I want to get across when it comes to gardening. Everybody has their own style.
Yeah.
What they like, how they want it to flow, the color combinations, the whole 9 yards. But this is the one thing that is evident. When I speak with gardeners, I mean, we can't help but be smiling.
Yeah.
That is just one of the connecting dots when it comes to gardening, is the joy and the passion and the love that ends up coming through when I'm having conversations with individuals. So let's go ahead and enjoy your style of gardening, okay? Because I'm excited.
Thanks. Okay. This is my garden, and this sort of flows. It's a what is it called? A half moon garden, so to speak. And I have a lawn and more lawn in the middle. One of my precious plants that I planted a number of years ago was this eucalyptus. And the eucalyptus, unfortunately, this past winter got hit. It used to be up here waving over my my porch, and I thought it was dead, but you can see it started to come back from the root.
Nice.
And so I am so grateful that it is coming back and it survived. And what I have over here is is hosta. I was mentioning that I love hosta, so I have a number of different species, or not species, but I don't know the names of all of them, but I really like collecting hostas. And my style is, basically I like blue pots. I have a lot of blue pots, and I also like for things to be completely filled in. Now some of the fill here are weeds, but pretty much I have this hosta, I have this This is one of my favorites. And I also like hydrangea. And this is a endless summer hydrangea. They happen to be in bloom right now. That's another hydrangea. Different sedum are here. I have some very large hostas. I have some wonderful ground cover. I don't know the name of it exactly, but it was. I go to a lot of garden tours, and the garden tours where people will just say, if I admire something, they'll give it to you. That's one thing about planting. So this is lungwort, which I just added to my garden, and it is a great. It's a great companion. It is a great companion plant for hostas and shade gardens. And before I put in this particular garden, which was about 3 years ago, I had canna. These are canna lilies, but they were gone because I had this completely I had soil. I had it amended. The next thing I know, they're coming back. So they are back now, and the hummingbirds absolutely love them. I have lots of pollinators, and so they're all, the flowers are coming in, and the birds love them.
Okay, I gotta ask, what's that in the pot, in the beige pots?
Pot.
Yeah.
Okay, this is an annual. And I don't know, I should have done my research before you came, but the hummingbirds absolutely adore
It's gorgeous.
These little trumpets, and they linger here. I have a video of them just, they go to each one of them. And I was like, how much sap can they get out of these things? I said, because they are here every single morning.
Nice.
Like getting them. So I have in here, as I said, I have some pots, and these are annuals just to, but for the most part, it's a perennial garden.
Yeah.
And but in between, I also have some ferns. I have a Japanese painted fern that is over here.
I just recently got one of those because I saw it on the Smyrna garden tour.
Yes.
Loved it.
Love the Japanese painted ferns, and as well as I have the autumn ferns, which are evergreen.
Oh, nice.
And they stay here even when everything else dies back. Hostas die back, hydrangeas die back. And so that it doesn't look so barren, I try to put in something that will stay evergreen.
Nice. And I didn't know that about that fern.
Yes, well, the Japanese will not.
Okay.
But the autumn ferns, which I'll show to you, they stay. So I have here, this is a camellia plant, camellia bush or whatever. And so I just trim it into a tree.
Nice.
Yeah, and it blooms generally in the winter. So, you have some winter interest in your garden because it flowers beautifully. And as I said, I have different variations of hosta around. These are annuals that are in the pots that I just like to highlight. This is, of course, an annual called Persian something.
Persian shield.
Shield.
Because I have one of those too. It's gorgeous.
And my husband is Persian.
Oh, okay.
So it is really I love the colors.
Yeah.
It's almost iridescent and it looks beautiful. I have the hummingbirds that are iridescent. And I also put in some bellflowers this spring. These are bellflowers, and they are perennials also.
Oh,
they have a beautiful bloom.
Oh, that is pretty.
They have a beautiful bloom. And back here, of course, in pots, I have hostas. This year, I have these, which are sedum, because in the past, I have had hostas and hydrangeas in these pots. They are too difficult to keep them hydrated.
Gotcha.
Hydrangea is hydration, and so I had to remove them. And this year I recently put in this stone crop sedum, and so we're going to see how it does. So far, it's doing great.
Nice.
It's doing great. So, and these are the autumn ferns.
Okay.
And they stay green, so you still have some interest. These, of course, are incredible Annabelle hydrangeas. And they have a very long bloom life, which I adore. These ones. They turn white usually, and then after the white, they turn green, a lime green.
Yeah.
Nice. And that's another autumn fern. And so I'm still just building because eventually I want every inch of this to have some type of flower. Now these, as I said, my husband cut down my shade for these. So with the lighter colored hosta, they can take a little more sun.
Right.
Typically a hosta is a shade plant. These take a little more sun because of the golden ones. So we're going to see how those work. Back here, I have lantana, which is a wonderful perennial that continues to come back every year. I have a snowball tree. The gardenias were hit horribly this winter. So this is a gardenia that I started from a very, very small plant, and hopefully it'll do better next year. In between, I have white. Oh, these were some. What are they called?
Lenten rose.
These are the Lenten roses, and of course they are evergreen and bloom in the winter. This is a volunteer. This is a beauty berry that is going to have lots of beautiful purple berries on it, and it was a volunteer where it just came up.
Oh, and it had flowers. The flowers are pretty.
They have these little flowers, but these little flowers will turn into clumps of purple berries.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so they do really well. Again, I have some sedum, and I have this, which is this variegated plant that it really was a ground cover, and it is a ground cover that I have in a pot. Another hydrangea, hostas, and these are some annuals. This is a fuchsia, which probably is getting a little too much sun. And if you can see back here, these were my feather, they're called white feathers. They did not do as well this year, but they usually are white and then they sort of turn green. And this is what do you call this?
Heuchera.
Yes, heuchera, exactly. This is a heuchera that I had. This was one of my first hostas, and this was from a Martha Stewart collection at Kmart. So, and it has been in this family for a very long time. More hydrangeas, Annabelles. I have some trees back here that provide more of a natural fence. These are Leland cypress, which I had more Leland cypress, but they had to be taken down. They have a life of only about, I'd say, 15 years or something like that. So we put in a couple more, and we'll see what happens. More hostas. Not in bloom are these clematis. These are purple clematis, and they're not in bloom now, but they always have some interest. Hydrangeas. Some of the hostas where I have no idea where they will go. They are recent ones, and I'm just babying them to plant in the fall when it gets a little cooler.
Yeah.
To put them actually in the ground somewhere.
Right.
This is a plant that I rescued in somebody's garden refuge that was on the street, and I have no shame.
Hey.
Went up and actually, saw that, and it had roots.
Nice.
So it was really wonderful, and I'm very proud of that one. Again, we have these are camellia plants that I've had for a number of years. This is a dogwood. That was a natural, it was here when I moved in. More hydrangeas. These are annuals. These are the dragon wing begonias that I usually like to just accent. They're annuals. These are used as like the natural fence. These are mock orange. This is a mock orange, and it usually in the spring, early spring, is covered with very fragrant orange smelling blossoms. And it's a mock orange, and I think it's a native plant. And a girlfriend moved to Colorado and left me her Japanese maple.
That is just beautiful.
It was very tiny, and now it has grown into much more of a beautiful piece. I love it.
Yes, it is gorgeous. Now, how tall will that get? Because the ones I've seen, because of how it bends over, do you keep it, like cut it to keep it that size, or?
No, I have not cut this one to keep it this size. This has been here now probably about 5 years because I had it in a pot
Oh,
for
wow.
a long time, and it's probably been here now for about 3 years after I took it out of the pot. So it
Okay.
has grown substantially.
Nice.
And what I do is that I do take out the under
Gotcha.
stuff because to get that umbrella look.
Yeah, yeah.
And but then I just let it do its own thing.
Nice.
I'm much more of a natural whatever. This is, I always have some mint. It's very invasive. I used to have 5 different types that were planted everywhere, and eventually they took over.
Yeah.
So I had to scale back and put it in pots. These are weeds.
Oh.
These are weeds, which I haven't been out here to pull these out, but they are in my heirloom peonies that my mom gave me, and they're just suffering a little bit because this is not their season.
Yeah.
And but they usually have big white blooms on
Nice.
them. This had a lot of damage. This is a gardenia. It usually is filled with white blossoms, very fragrant gardenias, and it suffered tremendously in the freeze this winter. I've recently put in these limelights hydrangea, and just put these in. This is debutante, which is a camellia bush. And so I have that one. And my kitchen garden is over here with, I only use basil and chives because that's all I like to eat.
Right.
I only cook with those.
Yeah.
So that's there. Around the corner, we have, this year I bought these, and we'll see how they do. These are foxgloves.
Oh,
They're
okay.
not doing well now, but they are biannual, so they won't do anything next year, but
Right.
then the next year we're praying that they will.
Okay.
And these were my hydrangeas, which were the macrophilia hydrangeas, and this was a huge bush.
Wow.
But the freeze, they had no blooms. Most people in this area had no blooms.
Yeah, mine didn't either.
Yeah, no blooms for this particular type of hydrangea this year. But these two have been here for years. Now this is what they call 4 o'clock.
Uh-huh.
4 o'clock's like go crazy. So you have all kinds of little baby 4 o'clocks coming up, and they produce seeds, and they can be quite invasive. But I like them. I mean,
Right.
I love them actually. This is one of my only. I had 2 of these. It's called the Jim Morrison azalea, and it's a variegated pink and white azalea when it blooms.
Nice.
Yes, and it blooms. And it used to be all over, but my husband basically never let them loose with a chainsaw, and he sort of trimmed that, and so that's why it looks like that. Now all the blooms are up there. As you can see, the pollinators
Oh,
go
they
crazy.
are loving it.
They love it. Bees everywhere. But they're beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. This is my original beauty berry, which I told you I had a volunteer back there. And it will bloom into all of these, all of where you see the little flowers will be lots of clusters of purple berries.
Nice.
This is another, it's called Rising Dawn or something like that. And it's a purple camellia bush.
Oh, wow.
Blooms in the winter and beautiful. Some hostas, and then here I've had just a lot of volunteer. What are these called? They're sunflowers.
Yeah.
This is a green maple that I started and planted maybe a year or two ago. I have a natural azalea, native. I have a native azalea back here that is yellow, and a lot of other things. This is Amsonia, and it has blue flowers on it in the early spring.
Okay.
And again, 4 o'clock. This, we took down a tree, which we took down just because it was like too much. And so we are in the process of building this bed. And this, of course, is one of the original dogwoods. And here we have a smoke tree.
Oh, I think those are so gorgeous.
They are, and this one has been struggling because of it has something. We moved it, and since we moved it, it has been struggling. But I think it's alive and well. This is a crepe myrtle, which we thought it was mislabeled. We thought it was a chase tree.
Oh, okay.
And so Growers Outlet has just told me that it was mislabeled until I planted it, and I said, oh, this is a crepe myrtle.
Yeah.
And so they are willing to take it back and give me a credit for it. And
nice.
hopefully I can get a chase tree. This is a tulip tree that, God willing, it needs some nitrogen or something because it's looking very yellow. But eventually it'll be one of the tulip trees. It's an annual in this area for most people.
That is very pretty.
We did a few, we're trying to fill this bed, so we did a few Stella Doro, what do you call those? Daylilies.
Daylilies. Yeah, one of my garden friends has over 250 different varieties of daylilies.
Wow, she must have a lot of sun.
Yeah.
But it's fantastic for filling in gaps.
Yeah.
These over here are, this is an heirloom plant from my mom's.
Oh, okay.
It's Amaryllis.
Oh, those are so
Amaryllis
pretty.
That usually has like lots of blooms in early spring. And I have some other Amaryllis that are not heirloom mixed in here. One that is salmon colored, and then I have a nut. These are pretty much variegated red and white, but I have some solid red ones in here that I purchased. And any of your Amaryllis, you know, if you force them during Christmas or during that time, just keep them afterwards, and then put them out in the spring, and they will grow beautifully in this area.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they'll grow. Drinking gourd, hosta. I went on a garden tour and found these things are called holly ferns.
Oh, okay.
And they grow in the shade because I'm trying to reduce and save my husband's back so that everything is perennial that we can get it. And these, of course, are the ones we were talking about.
Right.
These are the Japanese painted ferns. Over here are, crazy. Over here we have lamb's ear. And I've added a new variety of lamb's ear to this pot.
Helen Von Steen?
Is that who
That's what it's called. That's my favorite.
Because I think I may have seen
yes,
it at your house.
Yes, I have it all over. I love it.
And so I saw it there, and I mean, the leaves are so much larger.
Yeah.
These are more silvery right now.
Yeah.
This may be because it's in the sun. But, yeah, so I love the lamb's ear stays year round.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. I got hostas. I got these little plants coming up at the 4 o'clocks. This is my giant first 4 o'clock that we have to tie back.
Yeah.
It's so huge. And this, what you were talking about, this was a $36 fine at a nursery in Austell, Georgia. And we got that soon after we moved in here. So this is about 25 years old.
Nice. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's about 20 years old at least. Just continues to outdo itself. Yeah. And this also was what's called a grafted maple. And I don't know what that means exactly.
It's pretty.
Other than it's still a maple, Japanese maple, but it's grafted. And I think the way that they grew it. These were very tiny when I originally got them. They're Blue Angel hosta, and they grew very large.
Yeah.
As you can see, they grew very large.
And this is like ideal for hostas to have. You got a little peek of the sun coming through, but this is what they like.
This is what they love. They love the shade. They love the shade, and they love water. And we had an entire row of gardenias over here that were all killed during this past year. And that's what we were saying about what you learn in gardening is that you have to be willing to mourn the loss. And I mean, it was a big mourn.
Yeah.
And, it was gone, unfortunately. And so we put in some new plants to fill in the gaps. This usually we have had with caladiums. White caladiums is what this area was known for. However, in saving my husband's back again, we decided we're going to put something in here that just stays and comes back.
Yeah.
So this is a new bed. Hostas over there, of course. And that's essentially it. I mean, this was an original tree, which I think is some type of maple.
Yeah.
And it's an original tree in the subdivision. So
Yeah. Wow.
that's us.
Your yard is just so gorgeous. I know when we were talking, you were like, "Oh, my yard is a tiny garden," but this is a manageable garden for you guys. And with gardening, that's what you determine whether or not you want a full huge garden or something that's more medium size, or even a balcony garden, because I'm going to be speaking with someone that's trying to get a garden set up on her balcony.
That's
great. So and like I said, that's the beauty of gardening. You got different levels that individuals enjoy. So I cannot thank you enough for allowing me to come and tour your garden. It's just beautiful.
My thanks are to you in terms of you being so enthusiastic and encouraging. And I don't know if you know Deborah. I met her with a plant swap, and it was like instant plant friends. And thank you for coming over and letting me show off my fun.
Okay.
This is my fun.
Thank you again, Jayne, for allowing me to come over and visit your garden. It is absolutely